Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of fixing the transmission problem in this 1997 RM125. Today's goal is just to kind of break this motor apart. I can show you what I did to it, the new piston and whatnot as we tear it apart, and hopefully diagnose what I did wrong when I put it together. So we'll see you guys in a minute. So the first step that I want to show you guys that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing this oil drain plug that is located at the bottom. Now with this bike I had to drill it out and have it welded up and then bore it out and put a helicoil in there to make sure that this sealed properly. Currently there was no leaks found and there was no issues with this motor. And the oil that I have in it at the moment is this AMSOIL 10W40. One thing I made sure is that it was for motorcycle oil and that it has a wet clutch compatibility. This one says that it has a confident clutch feel and it protects gears and resists heat. That's perfect for one of these bikes. I recommend AMSOIL. You don't have to run this if you don't want to. It depends on what you would like to run with the vehicle or the bike. This is what I recommend. So let's get into it and we'll start tearing down this motor. Talk about a first startup. That's some pretty nasty oil. There must have been something gross in that motor. I cleaned it all out, but that could just be clutch. I'm not seeing any sign of coolant getting in there, which is really good, but that's some pretty grody oil. Well, I've already made a mess. I didn't quite get all the oil out of it. I kind of knew that. So we're going to take a second, clean this up, and we'll continue on with the build. So far so good. I was able to remove everything on this side of the engine. The next thing that we have to take out is the shifting mechanism right here. But I was able to take everything off of the clutch, kick-starting mechanism out of it, everything for the power valve and the gears that were right here coming off the main. And we'll get into this next, so wish me luck on tearing this apart. Moment of truth, once I get this off, let's see how it comes out. The piston was brand new in this. I threw a Wiseco in it. What I've heard about Wiseco pistons is you have to warm them up more than any other piston because they're forged. And I think that's in general with a forged piston, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of learning these things with you guys. And I do want to say, a lot of the setup that I have here, I'm growing, guys. I'm working on these things. I've only been working on them for about 2 years now, and I've grown a lot. I've learned a ton. But I have much more to learn and much more to buy. Like, I'd love to have an engine stand that catches that oil. That somehow keeps pouring out of the engine. I don't have an answer for how much more is in there. But it's interesting to find out how much oil I can spill all over the floor. And make a mess here as we have to clean it up. This stubborn bolt's in a great spot here. There we go, we got it. Now, let's see if this comes off. Should just kind of pop. I might have to get a hammer here. Oh, look at that. Came loose. Let's see if this piston comes out of there. Come on. Piston's out of it. Look at that. Fresh, no damage. That's super nice. So we'll set this piston down here for now, or this jug down here. That jug was super nice. There was no damage to that jug. I'm saving these gaskets, but I'm planning on buying new gaskets to rebuild this. And completely start from scratch when it comes to it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this piston. There's these little clips on the side here. Can't really zoom you in here. I'll kind of bring you in here for a shot. So the little clip's right here. So you can see it right inside of there. So I like to push the pin back a little bit. These are very difficult for me to get out as I'm learning, especially with not scoring the piston. They can be very hard, and then they like to shoot everywhere. So I like to do is just kind of work around it. As long as my thumb's there, I tend to catch it. Bam, we caught it. I'm going to put it down here. Then you can slide this ring right out of there. It tends to be a little bit difficult. I don't want to grab it with pliers because it's not ideal for it. So we take this, we're just going to push it right on out of there so I can grab it. Once you've grabbed it, pulled it through, make sure you grab your wrist pin bearing here. Just can't really focus it, but you have your bearing. You have your wrist pin here. And I like to put them together as I'm doing this. So I like to put the bearing inside of here and start the wrist pin through. As it's in there, it doesn't really have any place to go or move around, so it's kind of protected. Another thing that I've learned on these is you want to be able to check your crank. You can have side to side, but you don't want any up and down movement. There's no up and down movement in this. I can't feel it moving anywhere. Side to side is pretty normal because there's slack in those piston bearings, or those bearings that are inside of here. But up and down is the important part that you don't have any movement. I have a little side to side, it's hard to get there, but I don't really have any up and down movement, which is nice. So I'm going to be reusing this crank as we go on. All right, well now that we have that all removed, the next thing that I want to take care of is I want to take off this boot here, and then we'll begin to work on the stator, which is on the other side here, and we'll be closer to splitting the case, so let's get to it. Another thing I want to show you to be able to pay attention to is this is your reed valve. Now if there's ever kind of chips in your reeds right here, be right there or right there, you could have an issue where the bike would bog. Now these can get stuck into the motor as well. So when it comes to bogging issues, I like to take a look at the carburetor first and kind of work my way towards this. But sometimes this is the culprit of that and you have to replace your reed valves. And all it is chipping pieces missing on this little flap. Well, we're almost there to splitting the case. Last things we have to remove is our flywheel, our stator, and then all of the bolts all the way around this, and then we have to pull it apart. Now, sometimes I've had luck where these just kind of come off, even though this has been torqued to proper spec. They'll just pop off, and even the case splitting, sometimes we get lucky. But there's also times where we don't, and it tends to fight you. So, wish me luck with removing this flywheel. The next thing I want to show you is the flywheel remove. Now I know that removing it with the tool that I used isn't exactly the best tool for it, but it didn't create any damage on the flywheel, as well as it broke it loose from the spline, as that is one of those press fits. As you push more, as you tighten down this bolt to the proper torque spec, it pushes down on the spline, and then there's this keyway right here. Now this keyway is also located on the spline, and I will zoom in and show you the spline here in just a second. Right here on this side is that spline that I was talking about. Or not that spline, that is the keyway right there. So as you pull that out, I like to reach in there with pliers. Keep in mind, all of this is not the magnetic piece. I believe the magnetic piece is on the flywheel over here. So what I like to do, pair of needle nose, reach down in here. Sometimes she'll pluck out of there. I have found times where they're stuck, like this one's stuck. So we're going to move on and remove these 3 bolts. There's one right underneath of this wire here, these 3 bolts. And we'll take a look at that right now, that way we can get it out of there. It doesn't take much to remove these bolts. They're not heavily torqued. And anytime I'm breaking stuff loose or tightening things down, I start with this ratchet that's a little bit smaller. That way I don't strip anything out, and then I'll go to the proper torque spec. So as I'm removing this, 3 bolts. There's 1, there's 2, almost out of there. And this second bolt, put them in my box here, bolts. 3, now you can tell it's already moving. I had broke the other one loose earlier. But I wanted to show you guys what it was when it comes out of there. Now there's certain stators for certain bikes. The stator that belongs to this one is a big wheel version one of it, where it has a huge back plate here. and it bolts into these 3 positions. There's also timing you can do according to this mark right here. So this little arrow, and the timing would be off of hashes on here. What I did was I kind of lined it up with the prior bolt areas and where this sits, and then I just tightened it down. I didn't have any issues with it. As we're going, I'll look in and get you the proper way to set the timing on this bike. But it's much like a distributor cap on an old motor. Like if anybody's ever messed with old Fords or old Chevys, they have a cap that you can turn and it messes with the timing. The same happens with this. So we're going to be removing all the bolts. Make sure you're attentive to where they are, but there is 3 located in here, 3 at the top, 2 more at the top, and then these 3, and then the case will split apart. You never want to, there's also one up here, but you never want to wedge a screwdriver in here unless you absolutely have to, because you will create a leaking point. These cases are aluminum, which are really susceptible to kind of denting, or any kind of steel screwdriver could create a dent, and then you would have to have the case reset and or buy a new case because it won't seal. So sometimes you'll see leaking in places where people try to split them, which would be back here or above here. There's even times where I've seen them down here leak because people are trying to break them with screwdrivers. So we're going to take our time and try and break this apart with a rubber mallet, and it's going to take some time, but she should come apart. Now, some people like to put these into a cardboard box and mark them out. I tend to not do that, mostly because those cardboard boxes get lost. And it's just the spacing that I have currently, because I share this garage with other people. So, I forgot to remove one here. Break it loose there. I tend to pay attention to how deep the bolts go. Obviously, when you're tightening these down, if it's getting close to the bottom and it's not quite tightening up, or you still see there's a gap towards the top of the bolt, like in between here, you know that you probably shouldn't go much further because you might crack the case. That's a big attentive thing to be aware of when it comes to these things. I'm going to go ahead and grab a rubber mallet, and we're going to go ahead and try and break this case open. Well, I was unlucky and I can't get this apart, so I'm going to have to order a tool to take this apart. So we're probably going to have to get on the web, get that ordered, and we'll kind of break it apart in the next episode. Hey guys, like I said, unfortunately, this is the end of the video. I don't have the proper tooling to split the case, so I want to order that up. I also want to get an engine stand on the way so that I can set it up in the air. Cleans up the area, keeps the track of the oil that I spilled all over this car, and it just makes for better viewing for you guys. Another thing that I want to mention is I figured out that the 8th or 10th digit on this VIN is what tells me what transmission I have. So I'm going to go to motorsports.com, split it up, look at one of those exploded diagrams, and see maybe it's a shim I put in the wrong spot, maybe it's a gear that's backwards, it could even be a shift fork or a shift drum. You never know. I have some ideas of what I might have done wrong here, but that's part of the learning curve. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.